I guess I have two. Early on, so I was a psychotherapist and had an office, and that's like how I got my start as an entrepreneur. And I was told by many people who were really just scared therapists not to move into like coaching and consulting. Don't do that. Oh my gosh, like what is that? No one has letters after their name, blah blah blah. And I'm so glad I didn't listen. Because for some people, that's right for them to stay where they are and to fit into that mold. And it was so not right for me. And I'm so glad that I have the skills and the training because I use it every single day. And I needed to evolve who I am and how I show up and the gifts that I bring. And I'm so glad I didn't listen to that.
So, hello, possibility seekers. I'm going to ask you a couple questions before we get started. Did you ever want to have an ally that helps you create the culture and the intentionality in your business or in the business that you work for on an everyday basis? Did you ever want to talk to somebody that really is results oriented, but also has humanity? Anybody that has leadership skills and people skills and culture building skills and is really quite a badass. Well, I have that person today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Today's guest is Brittany Drozd, a powerhouse CEO, thought partner, and culture change expert, transforming the way leaders lead. With a Harvard background in psychology and organizational behavior, she blends behavioral science with real world strategy to help companies not just perform better, but evolve from the inside out. Her work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, and her clients have seen everything from 35% revenue growth to radically lighter workloads, all through intentional leadership and evidence based culture change. If you're ready for honest conversations about transformation, leadership, and real results, Brittany is the only voice you want to hear. Welcome, Brittany. Hi.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, well, it's true. So let's get to it. Like, I loved it when I was introduced to you, and thank you to Michael for introducing us. I really like your stance on building business and culture, and it's with intentionality as your north star. I want you to help people understand who are listening to you. What does that conscious culture look like?
Your organization has a culture, whether you like it or not. Your organization has a culture, whether you intentionally built that culture or you're accidentally finding yourself in it. So, given that that's the case, why wouldn't you intentionally put effort into shaping the culture that would best serve your business, best serve your people, best serve you? And that's where that's the intersection of my work.
So when clients come to you typically, what kind of pain are they in right now? Like right now, as they call you, they're like.
Yeah, so I often hear from the CEO or the founder, and the pain that they're experiencing is they have kind of created this monster that they cannot control, they cannot contain. It's like being on, a bullet train, right? And maybe it feels like you're heading towards a wall and you got to figure out how to wrangle it.
Turnover issues, typically they have morale issues, right? So
Yeah, right. So for, it feels cloaked in overwhelm and a real like urgency to make it different. But underneath that is high turnover. We're not able to attract the top talent or they don't stay. Morale is low. Engagement is low amongst the team. They're maybe not, maybe you've had mission drift and you're not really who you said you were anymore as an organization. Some of that could be positive evolution, but if we haven't adjusted values or attributes of who we're looking for accordingly, then we're going to have that dissonance that needs to be resolved. It's uncomfortable for people.
totally. So how do you build that conscious culture?
Yeah. So the conscious component of it has to do with thinking about what you want your company to be. So I imagine most leaders that have achieved the point where they have several employees, team members, never mind dozens or hundreds of team members, there is some sort of business vision. And that vision usually entails like some kind of market dominance or, a brand that's well known, right? These like more business metric fashions. But and it's a more like, how is the company seen externally? What we want to do is create a vision for who the company is internally. What would our employees say about who we are? Does it match what the CEO says on a press release to what actually happens in the business? Is there integrity there, right? Is there alignment? Do we live the values we say that we have that maybe live on a sheet of paper in the break room, right? Have we taken the mission and vision from the website and really ensured fidelity across the organization?
You have no idea how much I'm smiling inside and out because I'm thinking about clients who have said these things to me, and I say things like, "So what are you really doing to implement that?" Before I know you, now I'm just gonna call you and be like, "Hello, has surprised we need help." Taking care of people, taking care of the organization, and being people focused is your special sauce. What does that look like in an implementation world? What does that look like in the real world? The CEO is in pain, he's feeling all the things we just talked about, and now he's doing the SOS. Brittany, help.
Sure. So, a little bit, I think this lends itself to telling you just a little bit about me to help understand that secret sauce. I was born for this role. Like, I feel like it's evolved to this place now, but I always knew from like a young age I was meant to work intimately with people. And that's why I pursued a background in psychology. It's why I became a licensed therapist. So, I have this knack for picking up on the unsaid, and 80% of language is nonverbal, right? So I can pick up on what people aren't saying between the lines. I have an ability to sit in a group, let's say an executive table, and understand that there might be tension certain places, that there might be interpersonal dynamic issues going on that need resolve. So that's me coming into it. So when they call, when they're experiencing this pain point, I try to tap into like, tell me how you know it's not right, right? Like, what's the feeling you experience in your body? Where do you notice it? When do you notice it, right? So I can start to get some understanding of how they know it's off, because there are these metrics we're tracking for business success or any kind of business result, right? But they're often not tracking what's happening for their people. And so when we come in, we're so focused on helping them get a more tangible, objective understanding of where their most important resource, their team, is at. And they often don't have a real gauge for it. They have this like feeling in their gut, something's not right, but we need to be able to put a measurement, a language to it that helps us understand, gauge where it's at, and then be able to measure progress at the same time. So there's different tools we want to use, but ultimately we're trying to get to this place where we can assess the people strategy as much as we're able to look at the business strategy.
So this notion of alignment it's really big in my heart of hearts. And there's also this alignment we talked initially about engaging with the wrong customer. And that is you to them and them to their customers. I want to unpack that whole series of companies. I believe this is my assertion, and then I want you to comment on this. I believe the companies are so eager to build their revenues that they often build it with an unstable foundation with the wrong types of clients. And then I'll hand it to you because you're the specialist.
Well, I really believe that a lot of, what you're saying, this, has to do with how we're thinking about marketing and our ideal client. But there is a real interesting crossover with psychology and marketing, right? So if you are just focused on chasing the money, then you will make all sorts of weird concessions to get there. And then you have to like, I want you to lay your pillow on your bed at night and ask yourself, like, am I in integrity or out of integrity with who we say we are as a business? And, I've worked with different companies, and I worked with one company that was working on ending the food waste, but they had partnered with, they were serving some organizations that were really questionable in their places that they were, their practices. I'll just leave it there. And they, as an exec team, had to really sit with like, are we part of the problem or are we part of the solution? And at what expense, are we willing to make that decision? Like, what's the cost of being in integrity? And those conversations are really powerful, but my gosh, if you don't have those and you just let that linger, if you're not addressing it, I can tell you there are so many people on your team that are asking that question. People are informed now. Information is everywhere. It will come out if you're not acting in alignment, not, being of utmost integrity. I mean, a timely right now example is our now very viral Coldplay concert and this famous executive team, right? But I'm just saying, like, it might not come out as egregiously as what they're facing right now, but your team members will know. And the second that that happens, you're risking trust, really the most valuable currency that a business and a CEO has.
That's absolutely true. I believe that what is not communicated, what is not said will control your relationships.
Really well said.
That is my assertion and my belief, and I think that when you bring the unsaid to the table, you have an opportunity to process it and to be right with it or rectify what is maybe not working for different parties, but if you don't say it, it's like that, that line in the movie French Kiss with when Meg Ryan goes, "Fester, fester, fester."
Yes.
I don't like festering. So it's bad. It's like bad cheese, fester. So we talk about the right clients in alignment, how you run your business. How does that also operationalize itself? Like you're going into companies and they're seeing you're pointing this out. You're saying, okay, you're not in integrity with what you say you want to be or who you say you want to be or what you want to stand for because you just did this and your partnership alignment is that and blah 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 and your people are annoyed with you then what?
Yeah, well, I think, one way to really grab attention of this executive team is we're always trying to, again, create some kind of objective measures for them. So, a really easy business case, and I'm certain you know this as a marketing expert, that when you're actually outside of addressing your ideal client or ideal customer, it actually becomes more work for the team and it becomes more expensive for the business, right? So when you can point that out and make it known. So I've worked with this other company where they were a lending company essentially, and they were trying to get to this place where they had these products so that they could automate it so much more, right? You have these three options, one, two, or three, right? And process it through and to make it very much easier for the risk team, all these things. But the sales team loved to make all sorts of exceptions for um for the customer, right? But it created all sorts of issues downstream. And in their efforts to try to lend as much as possible, it created a huge operational drag. And we were able to point that out and then kind of extrapolate on what those numbers are and prove to them that it was actually more expensive for them to make those exceptions, right? And you're pissing off your team and all the while. So we're able to kind of bring this to their attention. And this is a place where that business strategy and people strategy, when it's disparate, when it's disconnected, it creates unforeseen or like difficult to understand drag. But when you really can zoom in and you have intentionality around fixing it, then you can start to pick up these pieces, understand the true cost of the decisions you're making, and then you get to make a more informed decision. You get to change it.
Yeah, it's like unintended consequences, I think, as well. So the friction that we're seeing and the pain that they're in when you get the call, and then the CEO now understands that there is economic value to doing it your way. How about them apples?
Well, it certainly makes buying a lot easier. So, and that's essential, right? Let's talk about that for a second. If you have ever tried to implement something new in an organization or with a child or with your spouse, your partner, like anyone, and if you have not put any effort into helping them understand the impact or your purpose in bringing this, or what will happen down the line as a benefit, then you have not got that person on the bus with you, right? So either you're dragging them, which creates a real trouble for your mileage for your gas, right? You're dragging them, so it's expensive, or it's annoying, or any of the above, right? But if you can put in that effort to help get them on the bus, then the change efforts are much smoother. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying there's not going to be other challenges, but you've eliminated the initial drag on the whole thing, right? And the truth is that we can actually shift mindset by showing them the benefits, showing them the positive impact it might have for that team, that group, that individual. Then you've also got someone excited about the change. And now they might be a promoter and supporter instead of someone who's working against you.
Yeah. So I want you to unpack a little bit what organizations and leaders think they need versus what they want or what they say they want and what they need. So how do you get in and distinguish that with them?
So oftentimes when they call me, they're talking about symptoms. But that doesn't mean that the actual symptom is the underlying root cause of the problem, right? And so you have to be a diagnostician and go in and try to figure out what's the pain point behind the pain point. Like, what's the reason this thing is happening? What are the systems, environments, communications that are like making this happen? And then you can bring that to the group's awareness and start to pull that apart, understand how we got here. There's reasons why it happens, and there's reasons why it still exists in the organization. Is it's serving them somewhere. And even if that serving them is teams resistant to change, or no one's driving this change effort, or people are we're too busy to have an executive sponsor of this effort, whatever it is, right? You have to go in and figure out what's the right question we need to ask, or before we start answering it, right? So oftentimes if you take something for the surface level complaint or the surface level initial symptoms you're hearing about, you're probably not addressing the right question. So you really got to spend time in those diagnostics. And honestly, sometimes it takes us around 3 months of really exploring, surveying, collecting data, deriving insights from that to have a proper diagnosis for them.
I think that's where your psychology background really plays a part. No, I'm not. I'm actually not being funny, but it's true. I feel like that's the special sauce on top of the special sauce because you have the skills that a lot of most people don't in your world.
I am a social scientist at heart. Like I really enjoy the not the challenge, but the process of learning more about what's going on, and then being able to pin down the framework that's happening underneath all of that, that's supporting it and making it continue to live on for them in this organization. And when you can point out for them, hey, this is like the system that's actually happening right now in your business, and here's the roles you're playing, here's where you're a part of it, it's really eye-opening for them, right? And so I'm not just like, "This guy's a problem," and, "Oh, your values suck." Like, I'm not, like, coming in and doing that, which it maybe is good for TV shows or whatnot, but it's not really, it's not the right way to go about it. It's not a thorough way. It's not the way that you need to, because you have to think about the whole process. So I tell them that this is happening, and then what? My ultimate goal is to instill positive change for them. So I need to come in as an ally, as a supporter, and being curious about what's going on for them is the way that we build that relationship, starting on the right foot.
Right. So that is a perfect segue to what I was going to ask you next, which is like, what are the factors in a perfect client engagement? What do you want? If you're listening to this and you're a C-suite person looking to bring Brittany in, the perfect scenario to bring her in looks like this for her and you.
Yeah. The perfect scenario is several members of an executive team recognizing, hey, something's not right, something's not working. So at least having the humility to do that. I don't get hired if companies don't have some kind of understanding that something's wrong. And my gosh, I love coming in when it's not, remedial and like lots of, issues people are pointing at people, but that another perfect situation is a recent turnover in an exec team. The team's trying to establish itself, or a new CEO that came from the outside or came up through the ranks even, and is trying to establish themselves in that role and make a critical impact, but in a thoughtful way. Or they're trying to win, like, the hearts and minds of the team, or a new customer base, right? We need to really think about our culture in doing that. And so that is a number one most important setup, like some kind of understanding of how it's not exactly right. And we don't need to have clarity of vision of what you want it to be in order to give me a call. We can create that. But some humility there, because when the team doesn't own that, it's challenging to try to help make it better.
Nobody wants their baby to be called ugly, Brittany.
It's true, but what did the best companies do? The best companies recognize that this is a marathon, and this is a journey of constant innovation, evolution, hopefully growth, right? And so if you can put your student hat on and realize, hey, we don't know everything that there is to know, those are the people who are going to win, right? The people who think they've mastered the universe, they don't see their blind spots. They don't see who's coming up, to kind of grab their market share. So it serves everybody to sit with that level of humility and wear that student hat.
I love that. I've always found curiosity to be one of my favorite words in the world. I just say that all the time. Just be curious. Just show up curious. So it brings me to my question about your relationship to change and then your client's relationship to change, which I love talking about.
Okay. My relationship to change, it's kind of interesting. There's like two-prong approach here. I absolutely love my systems and my routine, and from like a daily, if you looked at my daily life, you would say, oh, this person is probably incredibly resistant to change. But the truth is that by having a regimented routine, everything from like what I do right when I wake up to like how I structure my week for my business, when I have calls like this versus when I do deep work or marketing or whatever, it's all structured for me to be able to show up as my best self in each of those moments, and stay in my zone of genius as much as I can, delegate out what isn't my zone of genius to help keep me really in that primary role. And what that allows is for me to make the biggest, most important changes in my life and in my business as I need to, by having the structure that supports me to show up with the ability to examine what's going on, where I need to change, what needs to be different, right? If I didn't have these routines in place that serve me, let's say like I exercise every day, that helps give me the space to reflect. It puts like, it fills up my cup. It allows me to be a better parent when I come back, from work, when I end my work day. It allows me to help my body be at 100% every day, because that's what's required in order to do really critical thinking projects, to show up and serve people really powerfully and be emotionally present.
It's funny. I just interviewed somebody. Her name is Katie McDonald, and she started a company called Be
She's
Nourished.
a friend of mine in Rhode Island. Love Katie, short blonde
Oh,
hair.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, now it's gray, but yeah.
Yeah.
So she's a friend of yours?
Yeah.
Hysterical. Oh God, stop right now. So it turns out that somebody introduced me to Katie, and Katie and I knew each other 35 years ago, and I was part of the training team that trained her organization in some of their sales.
Oh my gosh. She's a gem. I love
She's
her.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing. So I literally just, interviewed her, so I will tell her that you said hi. That's bizarre, but and funny, and why am I surprised? Um, and I listened to your podcast. I just want you to know that I'm a subscriber, and I adored your whole talk about habit and there's protocol. I'm missing the word, and you're gonna fill it in for me, but your whole thing about coffee.
The 10-3-2-1-0 formula.
Yes, and it was yes, so you can talk about we can talk about how you show up yourself personally as this human facilitator of better culture, you have to fill your cup up first. So I would love for you to just talk about a little bit, because that's sort of in my mindset right now, is this notion of how do you serve yourself first? How do you nourish yourself first so that you can show up this, badass executive and be the mom of little kids,
Mhm. Yeah.
which, I like to bring forward rather than backwards.
Right, totally. And I think it's important to note just because there's so much culture out there of like, look, I'm nailing it. It doesn't feel like I have a lot of routines and things that I'm trying to improve upon all the time. And it doesn't look picture perfect all the time, right? But the most important thing is persistence and the discipline to keep practicing. That's how it gets better and better. It's not going to be perfect day one, but currently I love to wake up. I have a full cup with this like athletic greens in it. People are kind of familiar with this green powdered stuff. So anyway, get a lot of vitamins out of that. But I love coffee. Absolutely love coffee. I think it's pulsing in my veins. Yeah. I love the warm beverage in the room, but I have rules around it because I realize if you just drink coffee all day, it doesn't serve you. It doesn't feel good in my body that way. So, and I actually learned this from another gentleman named Craig Ballantyne, who's a great coach out there, but for entrepreneurs as well. And it's 10 hours. I don't drink coffee 10 hours before I go to bed. So if you make that loosely like 10 p.m., that means your coffee stops around noon. And now I'm down to the point where I really like, I only make a certain amount and that's it. Because I realize too much caffeine, even if I stop before noon, doesn't serve me. But then so that kind of cuts your caffeine to make sure you're not actually working against your sleep. Sleep is the most important way to fill your cup. So getting great sleep because I'm not over caffeinated. Then I stop eating 3 hours before bed, and actually we have dinner around 5:30 because I have little kids, so we stop eating quite earlier, and that actually helps your digestive system move into the right zone so you can sleep better. No work 2 hours before bed. I actually stop around 5 and have a real clean habit of not picking it back up so I can create some nice separation and boundaries in my life, and then no screens 1 hour before bed. I'm a student here. I'm working on it. That one's not perfect for me, but my gosh, do I feel the difference when I nail that one and when I don't. It's so important to look at how our behaviors are helping us reach our goals or how they're not. And I would say this to a CEO who's hired me to help change their organization, or I would say it to, a mom who's feeling exhausted and not feeling like who they used to be. You've got to look at how your small micro behaviors are adding up and either supporting where you want to go and who you want to be or not.
You're gonna enjoy reading my book, girlfriend, because you just took a page right out of one.
Amazing.
It's the micro decisions I say make macro outcomes. It's not like these massive, crazy big things. Sometimes it's little tiny things, but compounded interest, right?
That's exactly right. Right. And that's where I feel like we're missing the boat. Like everyone's looking for this silver bullet. And I don't know, hopefully this ages well, but like Ozempic. I'm just going
Oh,
to talk about it because I think that this is the most recent version of a silver bullet that we've ever had. Is anyone surprised that there are downsides? Like, is anyone surprised that it doesn't make you feel well? Like, of course, these things come with side effects, and I'm not here to judge. Like, it is really, I've seen it personally help tons of people, but you got to pay attention. Like, diet and exercise is still incredibly important. Right. So you can't just like bypass things and hope for the world's best outcome. There's compromise there's somewhere. So you've got to look for that. You've got to look for, what are the messages on the package that are giving us warning that maybe this isn't, everything we thought it would be. But there's places where these things are helpful, but you have to be mindful of what it's not at the exact same time. And I feel like people are also looking for this in business. What's the silver bullet? What's the magic like recipe you're going to offer me? What's the magic thing you're going to say as this consultant that's going to change my business? It doesn't work like that. I'm going to point out the micro decisions, right, that are going to lead to those macro outcomes, like, you beautifully say. So That's the big, I guess, disappointing thing I share right off the bat. Just so you know, this is not rocket science, right? It's people science, which feels really challenging sometimes, but trust me, like, we know what works. We have really great data now. We know what works. We know what works specifically in the business context. We have really great tools to measure it at the exact same time, and we have proven strategies that help modify and sustain behavior change. So if that's what you're looking for, like, that's what we bring. But there is no silver bullet. And if someone's selling you one, make sure you read the full package warning.
I love that. Read the full package warning. If your consultant shows up and says they have a magic bullet, you should be careful that there will be side effects. I love that. What do you think the future of leadership, what does that look like for business tomorrow? What do you think?
Yeah. So what's really interesting, I want to just comment on the use of AI in these situations. So the future of business and the future of leadership definitely includes AI. And what we should have it do is help you do the things that you know you need to do, but that don't necessarily have to have this intensive human touch. Like, AI is so great. Like, if you're an executive, I want you to use AI in your communications. And I don't just mean across the board, but oftentimes execs are under communicating to their teams. They're under communicating to the org. They're under communicating out to the customer base. And so let these things help you get more communications out there and in your voice. Like, these things can certainly help in some ways. Where it cannot fill in is in that actual development piece and the interaction that needs to happen. So I say, like, real change happens in conversation. And that is the place where technology cannot fill in. So I'm saying get really clear on where you can automate, on where you can outsource and delegate, and let that happen for you. Let that really support you. And then be so crystal clear on what absolutely has to happen from and by you, where absolute authenticity and your voice and all that really matters. It really matters that you show up and have a one-on-one with your direct reports. It really matters that sometimes you physically show up in the office and have people feel really seen. It really matters that you recognize people for the work that they do and the impact that they bring. And so outsource the things you can so that you can make more space and more intentionality and more presence when it makes the biggest impact in your company.
Well said. I'm very glad that you talked about AI because it would have been yeah. So what's the best or worst career advice you have ever been given or would like to share with others?
I guess I have 2. Early on, so I was a psychotherapist and had an office, and that's, like, how I got my start as an entrepreneur, and I was told by many people who were really just scared therapists not to move into, like, coaching and consulting. "Don't do that. Oh my gosh, like, what is that? No one has letters after their name, blah, blah, blah." And I'm so glad I didn't listen. Because for some people, that's right for them to stay where they are and to fit into that mold, and it was so not right for me, and I'm so glad that I have the skills and the training because I use it every single day, and I needed to evolve, who I am and how I show up and the gifts that I bring, and I'm so glad I didn't listen to that. Another one was somebody told me I was crazy for charging what I charge, someone really close to me. And that was really hard to sit with, because I questioned myself for a moment, and then I thought, "Wait a second, that's, like, their money story and their thing. I don't have to own that. I don't have to pick that one up and carry that around." And, yes, I'm charging that much, and the client said yes. So
And there it is. Obviously, because you bring value. So when you bring value, money is not the conversation. When you don't bring value, money is the conversation. So clearly, they're not exactly so, what is it, confident in their value. So we're just going to leave that there. Yes, because you're better equipped to unpack that than I am because you've got the diplomas that I do not have.
but also I realized that those things also don't matter. So one way I can tell who's the right client and who's the wrong client is they, like, want some kind of proof of for my degree or something. And I'm like, excuse me, what? I mean, sure, I've got it if you want me to dig it up, but if you're concerned about proving my diploma is real or something, I think that we're in the wrong conversation. So it's important. I'm sharing this too for other people to think about what signals, like where are the red flags or the yellow flags, right, that show up in contracting or in, the proposal phase that you need to be looking at to ensure you're moving in the right direction with prospective customer.
Love it. Love it. Yes, the secret. Yes, that's great. And then the last question I have to ask you is if you had the opportunity to speak with your 30-year-old self today, what would you tell her?
Aim higher, that you're going to smash those goals, and there's so much more, like that it is just boundless. I think I I would not change the fact that I really grinded. Like I put the hours in, sweat equity, and I would not change any of that. But I do think early on, like you are running on faith early on, right? Because you don't have as many proof points that like this is going to work. People are going to pay for this. Like I'm going to be able to afford my mortgage. Like those things aren't there, and you're riding on a lot of faith, but preparedness and like planning, hopefully, and so I would want to give myself, hey, you're going to make it. Like there's you don't need to worry. It's going to happen. And I don't think people have enough of that. I think that there's so many, especially, gosh, with social media now, I feel like half the reason why people play small is they're so afraid of the backlash. They're so afraid of like posting and what are people going to say? What are people going to think of me? Like, I just talked to this most beautiful woman who has this incredible medical practice. And she was just like, oh, I think I'm finally ready, but I'm so afraid that people are going to think I'm money hungry or I'm this or I'm that or whatever. And I'm like, it is your responsibility to tell people about the beautiful gifts you have and that you offer in the world. And if they have those things to say, they are not for you. And it's so great to know that. So get out of the ambiguity, put it out there, be so bold, so fierce, so unapologetic about who you are and what you offer so that it becomes crystal clear who's for you and who's not for you.
Okay, that's awesome. That's amazing. And yeah. So I like to say what people think of you is none of your business. It's not my quote, but I love it. And by the time you're 50, you don't give a shit. So there's that.
I love that. I love that. I can't wait.
But to your point, I think to conclude, when you are in a line, both in your work and who you work with and for, and you bet on yourself and you're true to yourself, good stuff happens because you are in the zone. Like if you try to be something you're not, like there's a million marketers out there. What makes me different than the others? There's a million business coaches or strategists that are out there. What makes you different? You are very clear who you are, what you do, what you bring, and the value that you deliver. Your delivery system is different. Your way of being is different. Your way that you approach the problem is different. But if you're and if you're clear in that, you show up with the right clients. They will come to you, they will find you, they will want you, and you will have a happy life.
And they recognize your value. Yep.
There you go. We have had so much fun. I could talk to you for hours. So people, please remember to hit the subscribe button because it really matters. I know for a fact there's a lot more of you listening and watching than there are of you subscribing. So you just have to hit subscribe. Thank you, Brittany Drozd. You have been a gem. We love you. I'm going to put some show notes, some calls to action, places where people can connect with you here. And I invite you to make it a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to Possibilities with Monique DeMeo, where we unpack life as a female mover and shaker. If you like the show, please consider liking it, or better still, subscribing to it and leaving us a rating. It truly does help. Also, you can pick up my book, The 7 Secrets to Creating a Life You Love, a practical guide for women in leadership. You can find the book, other episodes of this podcast, and how to stay in touch at moniquedemeo.com. DEMAIO. I look forward to seeing you again soon. With gratitude, Monique.